You know, when you read through the Bible, the word hate isn't one you hear from Jesus very often. So when he does use it, and uses it to describe a specific doctrine, man, that should make all of us stop in our tracks and pay some serious attention. So let's figure out what this is all about.
Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. Not I dislike this, not I disagree with this, but I hate it. This is one of the strongest statements possible, and it's coming directly from Jesus in the book of Revelation. That's intense.
So, what on earth is this doctrine? Who were these Nicolaitans? And why in the world did their teaching provoke such an unbelievably strong reaction? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now.
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to start with the name itself. You see, the biggest clue to this whole mystery is actually hidden right there in the original Greek word, Nicolaitans.
See, the name is actually made up of two Greek words smashed together. The first part is nikao, and that word means to conquer, to overcome, or to dominate. So boom, right off the bat, we're talking about a theme of control and power.
And this second piece of the puzzle, that's the word laos. This is simply the Greek word for the people, or what we'd probably call the laity today, the regular folks in the church.
So when you put those two words together, Nikao and Laos, what do you get? You get conquerors of the people. It's so literal, and this just perfectly lays out the very core of the doctrine that Jesus hates. It's a system that's literally designed to rule over the exact same people it's supposed to be serving.
So, you see, the Nicolaitan doctrine is way more than just some old, dusty name. It stands for a really dangerous idea. It's all about setting up a man-made spiritual pecking order, twisting the idea of grace, and mixing the pure, simple faith with worldly compromise and, you guessed it, control.
But why? Why is this such a big deal? Why would Jesus use a word as strong as hate? Well, it's because he, better than anyone, understands just how dangerous it is to mix a little bit of error in with the truth.
The Bible gives us this really powerful picture to explain it. It says, "A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump." Think about baking bread. All you need is a tiny pinch of yeast, and that little bit will work its way through the entire batch of dough and change everything. It's the same idea here. A little compromise, just a small bit of false teaching mixed in, can eventually poison the whole thing.
And this really shows you the stark contrast, right? On one side, you've got pure, unadulterated truth, with Jesus himself as the definition of truth. And on the other side, you've got this Nicolaitan doctrine. It's all about half-truths, making excuses for compromise, and swapping out real freedom for control. Jesus is the truth, and he just won't share that space with this kind of mixture. It's one or the other.
And what's really interesting is that the scripture warns about people who hold this doctrine. The Greek word here is kratio, and it doesn't just mean you kind of agree with it. No. It means you seize it, you cling to it for dear life, you hold it with this fierce conviction. We're not talking about people who are just accidentally mistaken here. These are people who have actively and stubbornly embraced this error.
And what's Jesus' response? He says he hates it. The Greek word for that is miso, and it's so much stronger than just dislike. It means to absolutely detest something, to reject it completely, to have a deep moral disgust for it. That really shows you just how serious it is to let this kind of teaching take root in his church.
Okay, so if this Nicolaitan model of conquering the people is so completely wrong, what's the right way? What's the alternative? This brings us to two totally competing visions for what the church is supposed to look like. It's pretty clear when you see it side by side. On the left, you've got the Nicolaitan system. It's a top-down, man-made hierarchy. It's built on domination, and it ends up robbing people of their freedom. But on the right, that's Christ's design, a royal priesthood where every single believer has direct access to God, and any authority that exists is only there to serve, never, ever to control.
And hey, this isn't some new idea we just came up with. This is exactly what Jesus himself taught. He was super clear with his followers. He said, don't go around creating these spiritual titles and hierarchies, because in his kingdom, there's only one master, that's Christ. And everybody else, we're family. We're all brothers and sisters.
So what does all of this mean for us, right here, right now? This isn't just an ancient history lesson. Let's boil this all down into a few absolutely crucial lessons that are just as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago.
Okay, so what are the big takeaways here? First, and this is huge, doctrine really matters. What we believe shapes everything about how we live, and if we tolerate even a little bit of error, a little bit of that mixture, it can poison the whole well. Second,
Real spiritual authority is all about service, not control. Any system that sets up a pecking order to dominate people, stealing their freedom and getting in the way of their direct relationship with Jesus is completely against his design. And it's so important to remember, Jesus hates the teaching, not the people who are caught up in it. And finally, our ultimate loyalty has to be to a person, to Jesus Christ, not to any religious system. The health and purity of our faith really depends on rejecting these kinds of mixtures and staying deeply rooted in him and him alone.
Here's the thing. The spirit of the Nicolaitans is sneaky. It's subtle. It can easily disguise control as care or domination as discipleship. And that leaves us with a really important, maybe even uncomfortable question that we all have to ask ourselves and our communities. In our own lives, in our own churches, where does servant leadership stop and where does control begin?